Hey everyone, my name is Hassan Osman, and I created this video because unfortunately I could not present live at the NewCon conference in Midrand, South Africa. I live in Boston, and I'm pretty sure that I'm in deep sleep right now as you watch this live in the audience. So what I'd like to talk about today is the future of work and how the world is changing. And hopefully through that, I'll be sharing a couple of stories, and through them, hopefully you'll gain a little bit of an insight or understanding on the future of work and how that's going to affect your job as a leader or as an entrepreneur going forward. So the first story is about how I got my current job. I'm a full-time employee at Cisco Systems, and by the way, views are my own and not those of Cisco. And when I interviewed for this job a few years ago, I was interviewed with around 7 different people. A couple of them were from the Human Resources Department, and the other 5 were part of my core team. Now, if you don't know much about Cisco, it's a Fortune 100 company. It actually generates billions of dollars of revenue and has offices in every single major city around the world. And by the way, the job that I applied for was not an entry-level one. It was for a senior program manager position. In other words, the job was at a multi-billion-dollar organization for a senior management role. So the hiring decision was not going to be taken lightly. And what I assumed is that a position such as that would require several face-to-face interviews at the Cisco offices. So I plan to take a couple of flights from Boston to Cisco's headquarters, which is in San Jose, California. However, when the interviews were scheduled, I was a little bit surprised, and that's because out of the 7 interviews, only one of them was face-to-face. The other 6 interviews were all conducted over the phone because the team lived in different parts of the country. And by the way, those were not video conferences. They were just plain old audio-only phone interviews. And when I met with a person who was interviewing me face-to-face, I think he was in New Jersey, he told me that there was a possibility I was going to do this interview over the phone as well. But given that I was only a short train ride away, it made sense to meet him in person. And so technically, I could have had all 7 interviews on the phone. But the long story short is that I got the job. And the interesting thing is that a few months after I joined Cisco, the only person that I had seen face-to-face actually left the company. He took an early retirement package. So now I was working closely with a team that I never ever met in person in my entire life. And we collaborated every single day over the phone. We used collaboration tools and we used email every single day. But I had no idea how anyone looked like, including the person I was reporting to, so including my manager. And I used to joke and tell my wife that if I ever bump into my manager at an airport or a coffee shop one day, I would have absolutely no idea that was him. And this situation went on for around a full year. And then one day, the entire team got together for an on-site meeting, and I finally got to see everybody. And that was after an entire year or so later. Now take a second and let that sink in. I was hired into a senior management role at a very large organization, and I worked and I collaborated with my team members for over a year without seeing any of my teammates. And the point of the story is that if a multi-billion-dollar organization such as Cisco can hire, train, and manage employees remotely, then every single other company is going to do so as well, whether big or small. And that's because it makes sense from every single angle. With a virtual team model, companies are happier because they save money, employees are happier because they get better work-life balance, and the environment is happier because you get less pollution. And even industries that require face-to-face interaction, such as healthcare, are actually moving to a virtual team model as well. So today, if you want to check if your child has an eye infection, then you can snap a photo on your iPhone and just send it to their doctor. Even surgery can be done using robotic arms while your doctor is 2,000 kilometers away. Now, of course, there will always be a few exceptions of companies or roles that will push back on having remote employees, but when the benefits of virtual teams are a win-win-win and the pros outweigh the cons, then we're going to be heading there whether we like it or not. In other words, your future job is almost guaranteed to be at least partially virtual. The second story I'd like to talk about is about an IT certification. So a few years ago, I actually took and passed a certification called ITIL. Now, for those of you who don't know, ITIL stands for Information Technology Infrastructure Library, and it's a set of best practices that help practitioners who work in the IT domain. In any case, what's interesting is not what the certification is about, but how I actually achieved it. And the way it started is when I actually bought a book about ITIL from Amazon.com. That's my default method of buying things. Instead of going to my local bookstore, I buy it online because it's more convenient for me to do so. Not only do I save both time and money, but most importantly, shopping virtually helps me understand what the best reviews are by reading what other people like about a certain book versus another, and I can choose the one that's most helpful for me. So it's not only more convenient, but it also has an advantage to shop online versus offline. Now, a few days later, the book arrived at my doorstep and I started reading about the subject. The second step after that was to sign up for a live class to learn more about the concepts on a more in-depth basis. Now, typically, I would have looked for any teachers or classes that were offered in the area I was living in, right? For any courses, any bootcamp courses or something like that. However, the interesting thing was that there were companies that were offering classes live while you sit behind your laptop. So obviously, I signed up for one. And the course was given by an IT training company, and it was delivered over a 4-day period while I was sitting at home. The instructor was also sitting in his own home office in Canada, and the rest of the students, around 15 of us, were scattered all around the world. I think a few of us were in India and a couple were in China and all across the US. And we used a tool called WebEx Training Center, which is a conference tool that helps you take courses online, and you can do cool things such as raise your hand if you have any questions or comments. There are a lot of tools that actually help you do that. A couple are GoToWebinar and AnyMeeting. In any case, during the course, the instructor was fantastic. He distributed the material ahead of time. There were some downloadable PDFs that we needed to read. And then he went through the lecture slides at a great pace, and he made sure he kept everyone engaged, asking questions, making sure people are involved. And he also gave us some time off, just like a regular class, for coffee breaks, bio breaks, and lunch breaks during those 4 days. So it really felt like an actual classroom. And after I was done with that, the next step was to actually take the test for the actual certification. And when I asked the instructor about it, he said that this was going to be a proctored test. And what that meant is that I needed to be supervised by someone who was looking over my shoulder and making sure I didn't cheat. So naturally, I thought I had to look for a local testing center here in Boston where I had to register for it live and take the test. However, I found out that I could actually take the test from home as well. And the way that worked was very interesting. I pre-registered with a testing company and I picked a time and date that worked for me. I chose a Saturday at I think like 7:45 a.m. I woke up early that morning, made a fresh cup of coffee, and then downloaded a special software package that training company sent me. And the purpose of that software package was to shut down all my applications and browsers so I couldn't access Google or Facebook or any of my notes that I took on my laptop. Basically to make sure that you don't cheat. And when the exam was about to start, a woman's voice popped up and she said she was going to be my proctor for the day. She was based all the way in Greece and then kind of went through a quick overview of the process. She then asked me to turn on my webcam, my video camera. Now I couldn't see her, she could only see me. And she asked me to hold up my ID close to the camera so she could take a picture of that and make sure the person was me so that, I didn't have someone else take the test on my behalf. She then asked me to rotate the camera 360 degrees around my room so that she could see if there was anyone else in the office with me or anything like that. After that, she was actually asked me to show a close-up of my desk area to make sure that there weren't any notes or any other computers close by. And this is basically part of what she saw. She did notice my phone there on the left was a little bit too close to me and asked me to move it away. And then I had to share my screen with her. So basically, she could see everything I was doing on the screen while also seeing me physically through the webcam. So she had both views of that. She then asked me to start the test and to make sure I didn't read the questions out loud, apparently so that any, hidden listening devices couldn't pick up the test questions because of confidentiality reasons. And overall, the test process went really well. I spent like an hour. I got done with that exam, I submitted my answers, and then I immediately got the results that I passed. I think I got like 88%. And I thanked the proctor, and that was it. A few weeks later, I got the paper certificate in the mail showing that I had achieved the ITIL Foundation certification. Now the interesting thing about this is that I took a reputable certification from home. If you think about it, I bought the book, I attended the course, I took the certification, and I passed it without stepping a single step outside of my house. And the ramifications of that are incredible. No longer are you restricted to a physical location or geographic location to be able to take the same advantages as anyone else on Earth. And today you can actually take courses on sites such as Udemy or Coursera, sometimes for free, with only a laptop and a connection to the internet. And so you have the same advantages from an education perspective as anyone in the world. And today I'm a PMO manager at Cisco, where I lead a team of over 20 project and program managers who all work remotely, including myself. Now most of us work mainly from our home offices, and even though we can visit our office every now and then or travel for customer visits, most of our time is spent remotely from our home, and yet we manage millions of dollars worth of projects for our customers. And so the takeaway of all my stories is that the future of work is virtual. I'm a living and breathing example of someone who was hired and trained remotely, and I'm currently managing a team that is entirely virtual. And so I highly suggest that as part of your own career advancements, whether you are a leader in an organization or an entrepreneur, to take advantage of this trend of future work and actually use it to your own advantage. And so with that, I'd like to thank you so much for your time, but I'd like to leave you with one last comment. I'm the author of an Amazon best-selling book called Influencing Virtual Teams, and I'd actually like to offer it to you for free as a thank you for attending the conference. You can actually download it at my blog. The address is thecouchmanager.com/NewCon. That's thecouchmanager.com/NewCon. You can also find me on my blog, thecouchmanager.com, to connect with me on either LinkedIn or email or Twitter. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Thank you once again, and all the best of luck to you.